Hello everybody, my name is Benjamin Bloom and we're back with what seems to be on the surface another ridiculous firing in the Championship. Birmingham City have just put out a statement saying that they have parted company with manager Garry Monk, who seemed to have been doing a rather fine job. Not really getting this one, so we'll go through it and see if we can figure out what they've done, why they've done it, and what's going to happen next at Birmingham. So Monk had been there one full season, came at the end of last season, came in early March with the Blues in 22nd place. Previously, he'd managed Swansea, where it was in that kind of Swansea philosophy and lots of passing and very intense bloke apparently, very hard working and kind of known as a passing guy. Went in at Leeds, only did one season at Leeds. That was the season where Chris Wood scored all those goals, and I think a lot of Leeds fans were sorry to see him go, but I think this one was more his decision, and they parted ways as well. Went into Borough with a really good chance there, full parachute payments, brought in a lot of guys that didn't suit Steve Gibson up there. And when Pulis became available, Monk left after, I think, only 6 months. So short reigns on all of his recent jobs, really. Don't know what that means or what we can read into that. Let me know in the comments if indeed we can read anything into it at all. So he arrives at Birmingham, the 22nd in the league off the back of a pretty bad Steve Cotterill reign. He pulls them away from the relegation zone and they survive. We know those Blues fans love to get behind a relegation run. Lots of sold out ends during the end of that season, and pretty good job. Short term ambition to get them safe. Did that fairly handily. So we go into this season, reasonably slow start, lots of draws, and we can't forget there's transfer issues and a transfer embargo as well, which was broken to sign fullback Christian Pedersen, which I believe was the only kind of big signing that came in. But you start to see what Monk was trying to do, and he was one of the few managers that actually played a 4-4-2 with two actual centre forwards in there. And he tried to, given that he couldn't bring his own guys in, he tried to build a sort of solid but direct team. Good centre-half partnership, Morrison and Dean in front of Camp. The aforementioned Pedersen slotted in at left-back. Colin, who was already there, is at right-back. Hotter and Magoma started the season on the wings. That's where the attacking creativity came from. Keefton Beld and Gardner were very, think Brazil 1994, where the two midfielders in central midfield held and attacking was done down the sides of the pitch. That sort of thing with the wingers trying to get in. And this very decent and well-serviced partnership of Jutkiewicz and Adams up front. And as the season goes on, I thought Birmingham were good. You knew what to expect. He worked with the squad he was given. It looked like he was laying down the foundations for, right, let's be very, very solid. Let's let our wingers and our forwards do the damage. And perhaps the longer he was there, the more he was going to build on that. That will become relevant when we read through the statement of why he's gone. Jutkiewicz starred at the start of the season, and as we went through, a very valuable forward emerged. Adams finished with, fact check me on this, 24, 25 goals by the end of the season. Young English forward, and he's presumably going to be sold for a load of money or kept and score a load more goals. So pretty decent job in that second quartile for a lot of the season until that international break, and the EFL deducts 9 points for FFP infractions, most of which took place before Monk even arrived. If you don't know the FFP rules, you can record up to £13 million losses over a 3-year period per year. That's 39 million. He's only been there a year, so how can he be responsible for 3 years of books? Don't know what dealings he had with the Pedersen transfer, but I guess if I work for an organisation and they tell me I can spend this on my department, that's their lookout if they believe that to be legal and above board, despite maybe information to the contrary. I don't really see that as Monk's issue. So from what I can see, he arrived in March 18, got them away from relegation, worked with the tools he was given, built a good team, developed a really good forward who's now worth a load of money, and then suffered a 9-point deduction. I think they finished 17th, 19th, 17th, 19th. I can't remember which one. By the end of the season, that deduction, I can't really conflate that deduction being his fault. So it's a thumbs up for me for what Monk did. I think the style of football, which was direct, but it wasn't terrible. It wasn't boot it down the pitch, long throw-ins in the box every time. Every free kick from 60 yards goes forward. I think he was working with what he had, and perhaps over time would have developed that. But I don't know, I get a bit fed up with this football, fantasy that you have to play tippy-tappy, short passing the whole time. That's the only way that you can play. And just play winning, effective football, create a lot of chances and don't concede many. And in my eyes, you're a good team. I don't really care how you do it. So I'm sure if you add higher quality players to the system Monk was using, and go figure, they were already in the second quartile most of the season, then you get your playoff challenge, don't you? So I don't really think the style needed to change, and it wasn't terrible. It was direct, but it wasn't dour, awful football. We then started to get these rumours last week. First of all, Hotter goes out to Aston Villa and Gardner comes in, and I'm led to believe that that wasn't Monk's choice. So you take out a probably most skillful player, and in comes I think Gardner's 26, is he? Central midfielder to sit in there. I know as well Hotter had drifted out of the team towards the end of the season, so I don't know whether he wasn't buying into the team ethic, but certainly an excellent player. And I think Monk, correct me if I'm wrong, wanted to keep him and continue working there. So I know he was on a massive wage. Again, Garry Monk didn't sanction that contract. Managers don't decide what players get paid. They just don't. Other people do. So I can't really be blamed for anything like that. So the rumours start, and it was kind of put to bed, I guess, at the end of last week, and that was all I thought of it. And then all of a sudden, Twitter goes off today, and he has gone. And for all the reasons I've said, that I think he did a good job, that makes me quite surprised. Let's have a look at the statement that the lovely people from Trillion Trophy Asia, who we'll talk about a bit more in a minute, have put out. They've parted companies in, quote, the long-term interests of the club. Okay. Pep Clotet, don't know who that is going to be the caretaker manager, so they are going to be hiring somebody else by the looks of it. Obviously, this is vital time now. I always say on my championship coverage that clubs with 2 years' worth of good planning have a pretty big advantage in the championship, given what a car crash it is with 3 teams going out, 3 teams coming in, at either end, and managers only lasting less than 2 years. You see my theory. So they need to get this sorted pretty quickly because pre-season will come and go. They hope the team can adopt a fresh and modern footballing philosophy whilst maintaining the club's core values. Now, I don't know what that means, but that seems to be going towards style of play. We know Monk played lovely football at Swansea. I would say he played decent football at Leeds and didn't really develop an identity at Borough. If he did play direct football here, it worked because it fed a striker who's now worth a hell of a lot of money that you can sell, and Lukas Jutkovic had brilliant figures and he had 2 good wingers, and I just think he used what he had and was under a transfer embargo. So I would have thought that a good guy to develop I'll quote them directly, modern football philosophy would be Garry Monk. But there you go. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Let me know in the comments. They want to drive the club forward and challenge for promotion. Well, I think you could pause the table quite a few times in early part of this year. So coming into the last 10, 20 games where Birmingham were 9th, 8th in a league where teams spend loads and loads of money and have parachute payments and other owners gamble, I would think that's not far off a promotion campaign. So either some more planning, good coaching, or adding some better players, and you're there already. But there you go. They're going to have an overall review of club operations, also seeking to enhance recruitment and scouting. This is the ownership that hired Harry Redknapp and gave him a ton of money to pay Hotter 43 grand a week and David Stockdale 30 grand a week in goal. So yes, they may need to enhance their recruitment and scouting. Obviously, that's absolutely nothing to do with Garry Monk and not his fault. But yeah, everyone wants to enhance their club operations. I get that. They have a pool of talented players. Those emerging from the under-23s will be embraced. Kind of worries me when you hear that, because you always want under-23 players to be embraced. When they're good enough, they're put in the team. Sometimes when you hear that, you think, right, you're not getting any money. You need to play all the young players, whether they're good enough or not, regardless of whether you can bring in better players or not. So obviously Blues fans will love to see young Birmingham kind of trained players coming through. But yeah, so that was the main bones of the statement. As you can see, I'm a fan of what Garry Monk did last year. I like Birmingham. Got nothing against Birmingham. I find their owners a bit odd, and we'll talk about them in a second. So where does this leave Garry Monk? Well, he's definitely going to come off sympathetic. He's definitely in that conversation that we spoke about Nigel Adkins on one of the previous videos, is in as a decent operating championship team that knows the division, knows what to do, and will be seen as a safe pair of hands. And obviously there is the whole job that's up for grabs, although if you want basket case owners, you might be going out the frying pan into the fire there. And there's obviously a large elephant in the room called Derby County at the moment, where we think their manager may well end up going to Chelsea, and that job might be open. So I think in terms of Monk's career, he's still a young guy. He's got experience. I don't know when people start saying he's not been in jobs long and he's had a lot of jobs, whether that starts to count against him. But I suspect he will be hired again in the next 4 months to 12 months by a championship club who could finish in the top half. Don't know who that will be, when that will be, what that will be, but I think he's looking all right. Where does it leave Birmingham? It all depends on who they hire, doesn't it? Because if they make a brilliant hire, and they have a good season next year, this will all be forgotten and people will say, good job. What they have done though is they've gotten rid of a year of work by a manager who had set a style of play that, if they did have a problem with, could be tweaked by a guy that knows the players bit by bit. So they've got rid of that, and somebody's going to come in and inherit, I think, a well-drilled team with a system. But this modern footballing philosophy is just ringing in my ears, whether there's going to be pressure from the owners to not put free kicks into the box onto Jutkovic's head to try and knock down to Adams, who can score 24 goals in the league or whatever the number is, and Jutkovic has a whole slew of assists as well. Maybe they don't want them to do that. So we'll see who the hire is. Since Trillian arrived in October 2016, they immediately got rid of Gary Rowett, which was controversial at the time, but Rowett hasn't had the greatest deal of success since then. So should we give him a pass on that, on the basis that if you buy a company, yeah, you can bring your own guy in. Unfortunately, that guy was Gianfranco Zola, who sucked right royally, didn't he? Out he goes in April of 2017. In comes Harry Redknapp, who they gave loads and loads of money. We mentioned Stockdale, we mentioned Hotter and Dean and Colin all came from Brentford. Stockdale and the huge wage. Who was the centre-back that came in from Barnsley? £3 million. Roberts. He's not in the team. So they gave Harry a load of money and he was gone by September 17. They then hired Steve Cotterill, who I don't think's done anything of note at this level for a fair while. He was out in March 2018 and then came Garry Monk. So on the basis of, are they going to hire anybody good, the only person good they've hired has been Garry Monk, who they've just got rid of. So do we trust them to do that? Who knows? I would be worried if I was a Blues fan. I don't want to speak from the outside and go, oh, this is dumb, this is stupid, because I remember as an Ipswich fan last summer, McCarthy leaves, mutual consent, and everyone from the outside, they got it all wrong really, so I don't want to do that. But what we have here that we didn't have at Ipswich is a statement saying we're getting rid of him because we think we can improve things with a more modern footballing philosophy, etc., etc. That's very different than mutual consent and hiring a new guy. This is, we're firing you because we think we can do better. So I guess it's up to Trillian Asia to do better. So we'll see where it goes. We'll see who comes in. I'm still finding it a bizarre one, and I think that they would have had a good season next season, obviously depending on whether Che Adams is sold or not. But again, in the same way he did with Chris Wood, where he develops a player who then scores more goals than he's ever scored before and is then sold on for an amount of money that can then help with new signings. Maybe Monk deserved either to keep Adams and use him as he was, or, you know, use some of the money to bring in players without busting FFP this time. So yeah, we'll see if the new manager gets Adams or the money and who it's going to be. So I've tried not to be too down on it and just come out and go, oh, this is stupid, this is dumb. I've tried to give the whole picture, but I'm not behind this decision, and I can see why Monk will be cast as a sympathetic figure. Questions for the comments. If you want to comment on the video, let me know what you think. Have I got it right, wrong? Fact check me on any stuff. Feel free to correct me if I got anything wrong. I'm not a Birmingham fan. I saw them quite a few times last season watching the Championship, but I know that you Blues fans know more about it than I do, so please correct me on anything. But I want to know, good decision, bad decision, where next for Monk and where next for Birmingham? Who would you like to see? And are they raising up? I really should have got this number. I think they were 17th or 19th. One of the two is in my head. Are they going up or down from where they finished last season? Let me know what you think in the comments. Follow me on Twitter at Benjamin Bloom. Subscribe to the channel for more Championship content. And hit that bell button to be notified every time we do a video. Although I don't want to do more videos like this where silly owners make what look like silly decisions. But hey, the proof is in the pudding. If they bring in Jose Mourinho or Chris Wilder, I can't believe I just compared those two, or some manager who's going to improve them, then I will eat my words. But like I say, the proof is in the pudding. Thank you for watching. See you very soon.